Hey guys, it's me again, Eric here at Mountaintop 9, and tonight I want to direct your attention to a film called Fatal Exposure from 1989. Now, this film was directed by a guy named Peter B. Good. Now, doesn't that sound like a funny fucking name? It makes you think of the song Johnny B. Good or some shit like that. But no, that's really his name. That's not an alias or some shit. You know, it's really Peter B. Good. I looked it up online. It says his name is Peter Benson or something like that. But anyway, this guy, he made a great fucking late 80s slasher movie, let me tell you that. And it's one that I just saw for the first time recently. I had never seen this movie, and man, I have been missing out for years, and that's why I wanted to make this video and tell you guys all about it, because this one has everything you'd want in a cheesy 80s slasher movie. I mean, it has everything you'd want. This movie, when I watched it, now it's not as good as a movie like Blood Rage, but you know, it reminds me of back in the early 2000s when I saw Blood Rage for the very first time, because it's a movie that I didn't see when I was a kid. All right, a lot of movies I grew up with watching them as a kid and as a teenager. Blood Rage I didn't see until I was like 20 or some shit. Okay, I was older by the time I discovered that movie, and I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, holy shit, this is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, slasher, 80s slasher I've ever seen in my goddamn life, and I've been missing out on it all this time. Well, Fatal Exposure isn't as good as Blood Rage, but man, let me tell you, it is just, it's really, it's almost brilliant how good it is. It's entertaining, it's funny, it's got some really good humor. You know, I'm not one for horror comedies or anything, but when a twisted, weird, offbeat horror flick pulls off the humor right, when they incorporate humorous elements in just the right manner, oh man, it can be a really pleasing experience if they pull that kind of shit off right. You know, if they walk that tightrope between comedy and horror just right, it can be great. Because at its heart, this movie's just this twisted, weird, surreal little movie, and the humor just kind of gets kind of dashed in there like seasoning just to make everything all better. But yeah, there are two movies named Fatal Exposure that I know of, by the way, too. I want to tell you guys right now, if you guys watching this review want to see Fatal Exposure, make sure you look for the one from 1989, and make sure you look and see who directed it. This one's directed by Peter B. Good. So you want to know what Fatal Exposure is about? Well, it's about this guy named Jack Rippington. All right, that's his name. And guess who his grandfather is? The legendary, infamous Jack the Ripper, the notorious serial killer, okay? That's his grandfather. And so he carries on this lineage, all right? And he wants to have a son himself to carry on like this Jack the Ripper legend and everything. Let me tell you where this guy lives. He lives out in the country, all right? This movie was shot entirely in Alabama, and they shot it at some like big mansion type house, you know, out of the way, out in the countryside. And this character, Jack Rippington, that's where he lives. And what he does is he's a photographer. And he likes to lure women, all right? He lures women there to the house. And when they're there, he likes to take pictures of them and all this shit. But what does he end up doing? He always ends up killing every last fucking one of them. And the way that he kills the women in this movie, it's very inventive. This isn't a movie where it's just your run-of-the-mill, like strangulation, stabbing, and stuff like that. Oh no, this movie takes the killings in a very over-the-top display. For instance, in one scene, he electrocutes a girl, all right? He's about to snap the picture of her, and he puts these electric wires in her hand, and right as she's saying cheese, he totally fries this chick, all right? He just shoots electric all through her body, and this kind of comes across in a humorous way. There's another part where he injects. He's got this girl he's taking pictures of, and in between that, he goes over with a syringe, and it has some kind of acid or something in it, all right? And he injects this right into her neck. And sure enough, within a minute, you start seeing her skin coarsen and melt and pop. And there's all this shit coming out. You got blood and pus. It's a really sick display, but it's done in this really over-the-top manner. All right? So you got graphic shit like that. This movie, I think when I was reading about it, now I'm not for sure, but I think that someone that worked on the film, Slime City, may have worked on this film in the special makeup effects department. And that would explain a lot if that's true, because there's not a lot of info out there about this movie. This movie's very obscure. It's never been released officially in America on DVD or Blu-ray, and that is just an atrocious crime against the horror film community. Why hasn't this movie been picked up and released by someone? I'll never know. There must be some kind of rights entanglement or something, but this movie really needs a proper release. It's got really fun special makeup effects. Like I said, there are plenty of kills in this movie that are just over the top. It just takes it to absurd levels. You got blood, spewing up everywhere. You got people melting, people getting electrocuted, all kinds of shit. There's a scene where he ties up a girl and he starts dismembering her, and you get the dismembered head. You see it drop down into a trash can, and he's holding up entrails in his hand and shit. So you get plenty of over-the-top blood in this movie, and that's the thing that surprised me about Fatal Exposure. I did not expect it to be as violent as it is, and that's the reason I was so pleased by a movie like Blood Rage all those years ago when I first saw it. I was taken aback by how over-the-top the violence was, because so many slasher films, if you grew up watching horror films in the 80s, you knew that feeling when you'd feel cheated when you got home, all right? You rented a fucking movie, you were in the horror section looking for a good slasher movie or zombie flick or whatever the case may be. But you judge a lot of these movies based on the covers. And some of these horror films would just have the most lurid, enticing covers that just beckoned you. They just called out to you if you were a horror fan, And they would have warnings and pronouncements saying how this movie was going to shock you. But a lot of times you'd get home, you'd watch one of these films, and you'd just be disappointed, because the box art led you to believe that you might be seeing something really shocking, and then you'd get the movie home and there'd barely be any blood spillage in the fucking movie, so you'd feel really cheated, especially growing up, when you're a youngster watching these flicks. And so that happened a lot growing up as a kid. For every Fulci flick that was just spilling blood left and right, you'd rent some other horror movie, waiting for him to deliver the goods, and you wouldn't see shit. So that happened a lot, So that's why it's so nice when you stumble upon a movie like Fatal Exposure, not expecting it to be ludicrously violent, and you just see all this mayhem erupted, dismemberments, people melting, all kinds of good shit. So the movie's really tasty in that regard. Another thing that's really fun about it is if you want to see plenty of nudity, you've come to the right place. Fatal Exposure, one of the main thrusts of the plot, as it were, is the fact that this main character, Jack Rippington, and he's played by a guy named Blake Boehner, or Blake Bonner. I'm not quite sure how to say his last name, but man, dude, if you're watching this review, and I hope you do watch this review someday, you did a fucking brilliant job in this movie. You are hilarious. And your performance and your voiceover and the way you, break the fourth wall and look right into the camera and talk during certain scenes, it just makes the movie seem all the more surreal. It's just a great performance. Really fucking good. And, anyway, the character in here, Jack Rippington, his whole goal is to find a suitable female with which he can procreate. He wants to have a son named Little Jack Jr., and he wants Little Jack Jr. to carry on the same bloody mayhem that him and all of his forefathers have. He finally meets a girl in this movie who answers all of his questions right and passes all his tests, and she's played by an actress named Ina Henderson, and she's super fine, let me tell you. She's also in another movie that I think's pretty fun called Molly and the Ghost. That movie's pretty fun as well. Not as good as this movie, but it's pretty fun, and I'm going to review that in the future. But anyway, he meets this girl in this movie finally, and like I said, the rest of the movie is set up in a way where you're going to see whether he's able to carry out his plan of finally having a son that he can pass all of this craziness on to. And so, yeah, it's just a fun movie, man. You've really got to check it out. Like I said, it's never been released officially on DVD. Man, the biggest takeaway from this movie, besides all the violence and then all the good sleaze, is the fact that there's just this surreal nature to it. Like I said, you got your main character. He'll just turn and start talking to the camera in certain scenes. Now, in some fucking movies, that's cheesy or it's dumb. You know, if you're watching like Wayne's World or something, that's like the whole point to that movie. You know, Wayne's doing that the whole movie in there. But when you see it in Fatal Exposure, the way he's turning and looking at the camera, you don't get this fun, you know, Ferris Bueller type feeling from it. You get this really surreal, twisted feeling just emanating off the screen when Jack Rippington turns right to the fucking camera and he's speaking right to you, the audience member, telling you about his dastardly plans. You know, it gives you this really weird feeling. Several times, the first time I watched this damn movie, I was going, man, this is a weird movie. I just love the vibe that it's giving me. So yeah, what you got to do is you really got to seek this movie out, okay? The VHS, it's not the easiest to come by. I know just recently I was looking for the videotape of this movie on eBay, and I didn't even see one listed, but maybe it pops up now and again, or if you can find it some other way. However you find this movie, okay, definitely look for it. Fatal Exposure from 1989. Give this one a watch and tell me what you think of it. Tell me you don't think this movie deserves some more appreciation, okay? It's a fun, rollicking, good fucking time. So anyway, I thank you guys for watching this video. And guess what, guys? I'll be seeing you again real soon.